Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello. This September 3rd, 2020 regular meeting will now come to order. I will now take roll call. Ms. Cohen.
Here.
Ms. Corbett Sanders. I will come back. Ms. Diane Cooper.
Here.
Mr. Frisch.
Here.
Ms. Keys-Gamarra. Ms. McLaughlin.
Here.
Ms. Marin.
Here.
Ms. Omesh.
Here.
Ms. Pekarsky.
Hi, I'm here.
Ms. Sizemore-Heiser. And Mr. Anabudo is not with us yet, but he will be joining us later. Oh, Mr. Anabudo, are you with us?
I'm here.
Yay, thank you. I'm so glad. Ms. Corbett Sanders?
Here.
Ms. Keys-Gamarra? Okay, we do not have Ms. Keys-Gamarra with us as of yet. So we will continue and hopefully she will join us soon. Please rise as our student representative, Nathan Anabudo, leads us in the reciting of the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Mr. Anabudo.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands.
It stands one nation,
under God, indivisible,
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anabudo. In order to comply with Section 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia, it is necessary for the board to certify that the Fairfax County School Board convened a closed meeting on September 3rd, 2020, and to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered by the board during the closed session. Do we have someone to certify this motion? Thank you, Ms. Omesh. Do we have a second? Thank you, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser. All in favor? We have Ms. Omesh, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, Ms. Tolan, Ms. Marin, Ms. Pekarsky, Mr. Frisch, Dr. Anderson, Ms. Diane Cooper, Ms. Keys-Gamarra, Ms. Cohen. Okay. All who are against, I'm sorry, and Ms. Pekarsky, I'm so sorry, let me call your name. If you all voting no's, please raise your hands at this time. Those, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, are you voting no to the certification? Thank you. All of those abstaining? Ms. McLaughlin and Ms. Corbett Sanders. Thank you all. Please lower those hands. Tonight's meeting is being broadcast on Channel 99 and live streamed on the website at fcps.edu/tv/ch99. I call on Mr. Anabudo for an announcement.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Anderson. U.S. Constitution Day and Citizenship Day, September 17th, 2020. Constitution Day and Citizenship Day are observed each year on September 17th to commemorate the signing of the Constitution on September 17th, 1787, and recognize, quote, all who by coming of age or by naturalization have become citizens, end quote. Recent legislation has named the day as Constitution Day and Citizenship Day and urges proper observance of the day. This year, the official observance day is Thursday, September 17th, and is the 233rd anniversary, of the nation's founding document. All schools in FCPS will observe this day with activities that recognize the adoption of the United States Constitution and those who have become citizens under the Constitution. Schools will use a variety of curriculum resources to teach students about the importance of the Constitution and responsible citizenship. Throughout the school year, high school students will have an opportunity to participate in service learning projects related to responsible citizenship, which can lead to a civic seal on their diploma. Thank you, Dr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Arnabudo. I appreciate that those statements. Now I will call on Ms. Diane Cooper for a resolution on childhood cancer awareness for recognition.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I am honored to read this recognition. The American Childhood Cancer Organization, or ACCO, has designated September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month to spotlight the types of cancers that largely affect children and to help raise funds for research and family support. According to ACCO, 15,780 children under the age of 21 are diagnosed with cancer every year in the United States. Approximately a quarter of them will not survive the disease. A diagnosis turns the lives of the entire family upside down. ACCO offers support, information, and advocacy through their community of families, survivors, and friends affected by childhood and adolescent cancer. They are dedicated to improving the lives of children and families living with childhood cancer and engaged in this life-altering struggle. FCPS students being treated for childhood cancer participate in homebound instruction while they are undergoing treatment or recuperating. We are joined tonight by a longtime teacher, Jay Coakley, retired from FCPS after 30 years of teaching physical education. Jay returned to FCPS as a part-time elementary physical education at Woodburn Elementary. It was at Woodburn where Jay met a little girl named Ellie, who had been diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia in the spring of 2013. By the time Ellie entered kindergarten that fall, she had lost most of her hair and was wearing hats to school every day. Jay noticed her affinity for fun and cheery hats and organized a hat drive to provide Ellie with a broader selection of hats, and Ellys Hats was born. Now, thanks to the hard work of individuals who, like Jay, took an interest in Ellie and her hats, thousands of kids across the country who are battling cancer have received new hats and so much more. Ellys Hats does much more than send hats to children with cancer. They have helped to provide financial assistance to local families who have children with cancer. They recently reached a milestone of $100,000 in donations to local families. We are delighted that Ellie and her mother, Jenica, joined our meeting tonight. Ellie is now in 7th grade and will be celebrating her 12th birthday this Saturday. She's into Marvel, Harry Potter, and drama. On behalf of our board, I'd like to encourage everyone to visit the website for Ellys Hats at ellyshats.org. That's spelled ELLIESHATS.org, and the American Childhood Cancer Organization at acco.org to learn how you can help. Now, I understand, Madam Chair, if I could take just a moment, Ellie and Jenica, I understand that you're with us tonight. Can you wave to us and say hello? Hi there, how are you? How are you? You look amazing. Congratulations, Ellie, on the milestone of Ellys Hats reaching so many people and your fundraising and donation milestone that you reached. If you'd like to say something, that would be great. If you don't want to, that's okay too. Would you like to say hi? Hi there. And you know what? We have, you have another milestone coming up, right? Saturday is your birthday, and 12 is a big, big milestone. So congratulations on that. But I have some colleagues who would like to share with me. So colleagues, 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Ellen. Happy birthday to you. Yay!
Wow.
Yay! Oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness, but thank you. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for all that you do for other children who've battled what you have, and congratulations on turning 12. So as I said, it's a big year, and you're starting middle school as well. So enjoy, and we look forward to hearing more about your organization as you share with us each and every year. So please stay in touch and enjoy your birthday weekend.
Thank you, Ms. Devarakanda Kofax. Please don't go yet, Ellie and her mom, because I cannot not take the opportunity to say this. Prior to being on the school board, I was a principal of an elementary school in this area in Loudoun County. And every year, this was one of our drives where we did a drive for Ellys Hats. And I am just so thrilled to be able to put the face of somebody who we've talked about, that I've talked about for so many years right now. And I'm just really beyond thrilled to be able to meet you, at least virtually. So Ellie, thank you. You have inspired so many students that I can speak to very, very directly, because we have collected hats for so many years due to your efforts. So thank you. And I'm just so tickled tonight to be able to meet you. So thank you, Ms. Devarakanda Kofax, and thank you for being able to join us. At this time, I would like to turn it over to Ms. Omesh, who will be reading a recognition regarding Hispanic Heritage Month.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Each year, Americans observe National Hispanic Heritage Month by celebrating the histories, cultures, and contributions of Americans whose ancestors came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, and Central and South America, most of whom are in fact an extension of the Americas that we share. Many of whom are indigenous or represent mixed ancestries. This observation started in 1968 amidst the Civil Rights era as Hispanic Heritage Week, and later expanded in 1988 to an observation period of 30 days, starting on September 15th and ending on October 15th. It was enacted into law August 17th, 1988, and is a longstanding American celebration of many decades. National Hispanic Heritage Month is a tangible reinforcement of the school board's belief that our diversity is a strength that creates resilient, open, and innovative global citizens. More importantly, it is a wonderful opportunity for our schools and community to celebrate the richness of many nationalities, cultures, languages, religions, and traditions within this diverse ethnic group. We celebrate the likes of Cesar Chavez, Dolores Huerta, and Ramon Rahim Ocasio, American civil rights and labor leaders of Hispanic heritage. In FCPS, 1 in 4 of our students is of Hispanic heritage, representing multilingual talents and origins from tens of countries. 10.5%, more than 1 in 10 of every one of the employees in our system contribute to this richness as leadership team members, as principals, teachers, cafeteria workers, interpreters, parent liaisons, custodians, bus drivers, and staff all across our division. These cultures in turn enrich our school communities. I encourage our schools to set the tone in recognition of the need to reinvigorate the celebration of heritage, culture, and an empowered narrative of our friends and neighbors here in FCPS, and encourage community members to participate in the programs and events taking place during this time in your school communities. FCPS values its diversity and acknowledges that all people contribute to the well-being of the community. The vast diversity and richness within the Hispanic experience include the longevity of Hispanic heritage in this country, for centuries before Columbus arrived on our shores, as well as the continued struggle and reality for migrant Americans, of our brothers and sisters in mixed status families, those whom are undocumented, DACA-mented dreamers, some whose parents are on TPS, and many others whom we welcome. FCPS is fortunate to have many groups whose members work within our Latinx and immigrant student communities, empowering them to be the next generation of leaders and professionals. These include, but are not limited to, the staff mentioned earlier, as well as the Hispanic Educators Association, Edu Futuro, Lupe, CASA, La Colectiva, and our own Minority Student Achievement Oversight Committee. And of course, to honor this month, I'm going to read this in Spanish as well. Al primer, quiero asegurarme de que ustedes saben que hay pequeños cambios entre estos y el inglés, pero vamos a publicar la traducción precisa en línea pronto. Todos los años, los Estados Unidos celebran el Mes Nacional de la Herencia Hispana, festejando la historia, cultura y contribuciones de los estadounidenses cuyos antepasados vinieron de España, de México, del Caribe y Centroamérica y Suramérica. Esta celebración a la hispanidad empezó en 1968 con el nombre Semana de la Herencia Hispana durante el gobierno del presidente Lyndon Johnson. Y entonces, en el 1988, alargó el periódico de celebración a 30 días, del 15 de septiembre y el 15 de al 15 de octubre. Y el 17 de agosto de 1988 se convirtió en ley. El Mes Nacional de la Herencia Hispana es una excelente oportunidad para que nuestras escuelas y la comunidad celebran varias culturas y tradiciones, y es un refuerzo tangible de la creencia de la Junta Escolar de que nuestra diversidad es una fortaleza que forma ciudadanos del mundo resilientes, abiertos y innovadores. En FCPS, 1 de cada 4 alumnos es de origen hispano y se siente orgulloso de sus raíces y su cultura. Las diferentes culturas de nuestros alumnos, a su vez, enriquecen nuestra comunidad escolar. Los animo a que participen en los programas y los eventos que se llevarán a cabo en este periódico de celebración en sus escuelas y en la comunidad. FCPS valora su diversidad y reconoce que todas las personas contribuyen al bienestar de la comunidad. FCPS tiene la suerte de contar con numerosos grupos cuyos miembros trabajan con nuestros alumnos Latinx y nuestros alumnos inmigrantes, empoderándolos para que sean la próxima generación de líderes y profesionales. Estos grupos incluyen, pero no se limitan, a nuestros parent liaisons y líderes escolares, nuestros maestros y todos como la Asociación de Educadores Hispanos, la Educación Nueva de Padres Hispanos que se llama Lupe, la Colectiva CASA y el Comité de Vigilancia del Desempeño de Alumnos Minoritarios. Gracias.
Thank you, Ms. Omesh, and thank you for showing us your bilingual skills and honoring our Spanish-speaking communities. Very appreciative of that. At this time, I will call on Ms. Corbett-Sanders for the High School Voter Registration Challenge Resolution.
Thank you, Madam Chair. It is with great pleasure that I read this resolution this year. Whereas voting is the most important civic opportunity of the United States citizens and the cornerstone of our democracy, and whereas a new Virginia law requires every public high school to provide opportunities for eligible students to register to vote during the school day, and whereas the ethical and global citizen attribute of the FCPS Portrait of a Graduate is an expectation of all students, and schools are committed to developing students who will exercise their rights and responsibilities as citizens, providing fair and equal access to voting is an ongoing effort in our country. And whereas civic education contributes to the development of engaged citizens and increases the likelihood of future participation in voting, providing information to students about voter registration and how, when, and where to vote prepares students to exercise their voting rights. And whereas young people who are registered to vote participate in numbers close to the participation rates of older voters, voting is habit forming. When young people exercise their voting rights, they are likely to become lifelong voters, exercising their duties and responsibilities as citizens. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Fairfax County School Board recognizes the efforts of the League of Women Voters of the Fairfax area, the Fairfax County Office of Elections, Fairfax County Council of PTAs, and the FCPS social studies teams and teachers who provide voter registration opportunities and nonpartisan information about voting procedures for eligible students. Therefore, be it further resolved that the Fairfax County School Board will recognize schools that make significant contributions to students' voter registration via the redesigned High School Voter Recognition Challenge. This recognition is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Fairfax area and the Fairfax County Council of PTAs. I so move.
Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Tolan. Ms. Corbett-Sanders, would you like to speak to your motion? To your resolution?
Yes, it is with great pleasure that I speak to this resolution because we know that if you register to vote when you're 18 years old, you're more likely to be a lifelong voter. Exercising one's right to vote is a critical component of having a functioning democracy. September is Voter Registration Month. And tonight's efforts represents the 4th year that we have initiated the Voter Registration Challenge for our students. This year, it is especially poignant that we are doing this recognition because it is the centennial anniversary of the 19th Amendment and the passing of the voting rights champion, Congressman John Lewis. We know that the virtual environment poses challenges, but I am optimistic that we will be able to get our students to register to vote, do their research, and participate in elections at the local, state, and national level. Students born on or before November 3rd, 2002 can vote in the upcoming election. The Voter Rights Challenge was initially launched by the Governor of Virginia in 2016, and FCPS, working with the League of Women Voters and the PTSAs, has held a challenge since the fall of 2017. Over the past 3 years, over 20,000 students have been registered. I would love to see us exceed previous year's efforts, and for selfish reasons, I would love to see the award brought back to Region 3, where it won the first 2 years. Additionally, I'm really excited that Nathan Anabuto will be hosting a town hall on voting rights on Constitution Day, September 17th, with Senator Kaine. And I want to conclude by thanking the Board of Elections, the League of Women Voters, and our Social Studies Department for all that you do to ensure our students are active participants in our democracy.
Thank you so much, Ms. Corbett-Sanders. Ms. Tolan, would you like to speak to your second?
Yes, please. I would love to do that. As someone that has advocated for student voice throughout my current education, I'm very excited to second this resolution. Our students are passionate about so many topics and often do not know about the avenues to make their voices heard. As they reach voting age, programs such as what the League of Women Voters and our other support organizations are doing, I'm happy to celebrate what they are doing in our schools. Their work is invaluable. They assist students to register to vote, to understand how to vote, and to understand when to vote, all key things. Our local league has several loyal members that are working very hard to help us meet the statistics that Karen mentioned. And I happen to know several of these people personally, and I wanted to reach out and thank them. 2 of my longtime friends, and one lives in Drainsville, one lives in Hunter Mill, Camille Milks and Nancy Ruberg, are working alongside Alice Riley and Pat Faggy, and just are some of those making a huge difference. And for those of you that don't know, Alice Riley was the Fairfax County Public School Coordinator for Social Studies for many years. And Pat Faggy was the coordinator for language arts. And they both retired. And upon retirement, I think they have found the perfect way to still positively increase the civic knowledge and action of FCPS students through their passionate work. I want to thank these women and all of their colleagues and everyone else across all of the organizations that Karen just mentioned for the incredible work that you're doing and the service to our students. Now, many students and many Virginians don't realize that we have elections every single year. Not every state has that. Presidential elections are not the only elections that are important. In some ways, I might argue that our local elections for things like school board or Board of Supervisors may even have a bigger impact on your daily life. So I appreciate that our students are being taught by these organizations that every year they need to make their voices heard. They need to get out and vote. Thank you so much for all of the incredible work that you are all doing.
Thank you, Ms. Tolan. Would any of my colleagues like to speak to this resolution? Ms. McLaughlin, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to add that I do hope in the centennial of women getting the right to vote, that we will make sure as a school division that we find an opportunity to build this into our social studies lessons from kindergarten through 12th grade. It is such an incredible anniversary to be thinking that just 100 years ago, 50% of our world's population was told that they did not deserve to have the right to vote. And so while here in the United States, we finally got it right 100 years ago only, I think that to have this anniversary be acknowledged in our school system couldn't be more important. And I hope all families who are watching this evening, all teachers, instructors, that you have an opportunity to really put into appreciation for our young people, what it meant for those suffragettes to fight so hard for one of the most inalienable rights that we need as a democratic society. So it's a really exciting centennial. I do hope this board will think about how we can honor it beyond just today's push to get people out to register to vote, young people, both all of students, but particularly for women, to celebrate all those who came before us to give us this incredible opportunity. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McLaughlin. At this time, I don't see any other hands, so I will call for the vote. All in favor? We have Ms. Omesh, Ms. Corbett-Sanders, Ms. McLaughlin, Ms. Tolan, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, Ms. Pekarsky, Ms. Diane Cooper, Mr. Frisch, Ms. Cohen, Ms. Keys-Gamarra, myself, and Ms. Marin. Thank you all very much for that support. That is unanimous. The next order of business is citizen participation. Speakers are requested to limit their remarks to not more than 3 minutes. The school board will not hear statements involving issues that have been scheduled for public hearings, such as capital improvement program, budget, and boundaries. Complaints regarding individual students or school-based employees should be directed to the appropriate school principal or other school official. Speakers should refrain from using personally identifiable information in connection with an individual student. Speakers are expected to deliver their comments with the decorum and respect appropriate to the conduct of the public's business. Thank you for your cooperation, and thanks to those who have come to speak to us today. Today, we have 10 citizens who've signed up to address the board, and I will call on our clerk to call our speakers.
I'm sorry, I wasn't aware that I was calling. Hang on. Our first speaker is Teddy Geis, followed by Ashley Devarakanda.
Hi, can the board hear?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chairman Anderson and everyone on the school board. I wanted to first say thank you for letting the free SAT day happen this September. As we all know, it's been very hard to do tests, so I want to thank you guys for letting that happen. That was a very good decision. Second, I know later on the meeting tonight is the new 6.1 item about the Mosby Woods Elementary School renaming. And as I wrote to the board last month about it, I do support this, and I think it would be a very good decision if the board does go ahead with this and we go through the whole process, because we need to get away from, the very bad and painful, building names that, the racist Southerners left behind 50 years ago. And I think that we should name it in honor of a very prominent Virginia African-American, former Governor L. Douglas Wilder, but I'll let that go through when it happens with the process. Second, I wanted to talk about, this was actually something that I started noticing about 5 years ago, and then my grandparents also talked about it. I think that FCPS should reintroduce cursive writing into the elementary school curriculum because, you know, it's sad to see all of us go through not learning cursive anymore, especially the little kids. And I know we're also going to be a technology-driven society within the next 10 to 20 years, but we should still know how to handwrite because there are kids in my grade who teachers still can't not read their handwriting because they stopped teaching it after kindergarten for me. And I think that's sad. I lastly want to conclude with the homework for this, and I have talked to the student rep, Nathan Anabudo, about this. I hope that the board can set a policy for teacher workload that they give out during distance learning, because although we are online, we are on for 6 hours, and I wish that like there could be a limit that the teachers set so they don't stress everyone out, because it is much harder to do all the work from home without like all the support that we have from school. And I just hope the board can consider maybe putting in a policy of how much the teacher can assign and what can do to make our lives much easier in this hard time. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Ashley Devarakanda, followed by Andrew Hayes.
Hi, good evening, members of the school board. I hope you all and your families are safe and doing well. My name is Akshay Devarakanda, and I graduated from Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology in 2011. I'm here this evening to advocate for dropping the exam for the 2020-2021 TJ admission cycle. With regards to hosting and proctoring the exam during the COVID-19 pandemic, hosting a large gathering of students indoors to take the exam would not be safe, as many people would not be able to socially distance from each other. This would be unsafe not just for students taking the exam, but for any teachers and other staff proctoring the exam, and any parents for whom the students would be going home to after the exam. Furthermore, disruptions to learning in the spring and fall semesters of this year because of the pandemic will amplify existing knowledge and achievement gaps and means some students are less prepared for the exam than others. Virginia has already canceled SOL exams statewide for the fall, and the College Board has canceled SAT testing for over 1 million students nationwide already. If the College Board, who makes considerable money off of the SAT, cannot logistically handle the exam, how can we expect FCPS to do the same? Furthermore, when Virginia State Superintendent James Lane canceled SOLs, he made the point that schools should be focused on student wellness and reestablishing school and student communities when it's safe to do so, not immediately rushing students back into test taking and test preparation. The same logic applies to the TJ exam as well. The thing is, even when we don't factor in the pandemic, standardized testing is unequal as it is. It's been demonstrated through data to be racially, socioeconomically, ability, and gender biased. With regards to the QuantQ test specifically, this is a test that's used in the TJ admission cycle. It was implemented 2 years ago and was said to be quote unquote unpreppable. Unfortunately, we see that many families are using private tutoring programs to crack the test. For example, Curie Learning Centers is one such example. The numbers that I'm about to cite come from their Facebook page. In the first year that the QuantQ exam was administered in the TJ admission cycle, Curie Learning Centers had 51 students who took their test prep program get into TJ. The second year that the QuantQ program was administered, 133 students who took Curie Learning Centers program got into TJ. What happened here is not that FCPS students suddenly got 2.5 times smarter. What happened here is that 2.5 times more applicants figured out that they could use this prep course to game the system and get a leg up by spending $4,200 on a 16th month prep course. And this only a subset of students can have access to these types of resources. I end my time and thank you all for your consideration.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Andrew Hayes, followed by George Bersera.
Hello, I'm Dr. Andrew Hayes, parent and proud 1999 alumnus of Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology. I want to speak to the board tonight about the Jefferson admissions test, a matter of great urgency as we enter the Jefferson application season. Specifically, I would like to convince the board that it is not just advisable, but imperative to cancel the test this year. Some fellow alums and I examined the demographics of each application stage and found that the test is a strong driver of the racial and socioeconomic inequalities that have dogged Jefferson throughout its existence and which made headlines once again this year. The applicant's test score for the years that we examined was factored in as an explicit 20% of the applicant's overall admission score. However, our team found that it actually wields 40% statistical explanatory power over whether admission is ultimately offered. This means that as an admission variable, the test must be borrowing clout from another variable not otherwise controlled in the analysis. Further, test scores must correlate with this missing variable very strongly. That's what the test really measures. In other words, the missing variable must govern exactly those students that we know are missing at Jefferson. Black, Latinx, and the socioeconomically disadvantaged, doubly so for students at the intersection of those groups. The test does not end up actually measuring what it's designed or purported to measure, some sort of merit, aptitude, or readiness. Rather, it measures what race students are and how much money their parents make. Can we agree that's a really bad look, especially in the Black Lives Matter era? Finally, I would like to draw the board's attention to the lawsuit of Smith versus Regents of the University of California, where a preliminary injunction was handed down just 2 days ago by the Superior Court of Alameda County, California. Now, I'm not a lawyer myself, but I have conferred with yet another Jefferson alum, a California civil rights attorney, to help me understand its significance. The ruling was that an admissions policy where the standardized test was optional violated the civil rights of a number of different legally protected classes, including the disabled and underrepresented minorities, because the option was inaccessible to some. This ruling pertains to California, of course, but while it isn't binding precedent, it can be cited in Virginia civil rights lawsuits as the advisory of an alien court. California also has a very high standard for issuing preliminary injunctions, so it must be taken as very likely to hand down the concurring final opinion. I believe the board recognizes that it is impossible to require all students, including the poor and disabled, to traverse the cumbersome test process during a global pandemic.
I'm sorry, your time is up.
Okay, with the ruling from the Alameda County, I think you're left with no choice but to cancel the test entirely this year.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. George Bersera, followed by Kimberly Adams.
Can you hear me, Chairman Anderson?
Yes, thank you. You can be heard.
All right, thank you. Good evening, school board members, superintendent, and Mr. Drager from HYA. School board members and superintendent, best of luck in the new school year starting next week. Before we get there, there are still some unsettled business from last year and things currently. First, has the law firm you hired in April finished their work? If so, can the report of findings be distributed? Can you make this a work session topic so the public can be knowledgeable of it? Also, how much did this report of findings cost? Can you make this public also? Several school members on social media stated that this would be a very nominal expense when this action was taken. Hope this is the case. Early rumors have it that this has cost taxpayers over $1 million as of last month. You all can squash these rumors now, if not true. Another item still in the air is the Chief Equity Officer position. Glad to hear that there are now two separate positions, one for the Chief Equity Officer and the other the Chief Academics Officer. When looking at both job announcements that came out like 2 weeks ago, several things stuck out in my mind for the Chief Equity Officer position. One is that the announcement does not tie into One Fairfax and a countywide effort on equity, diversity, and/or inclusion. It also does not state that the position reports directly to the superintendent. Another matter is the announcement states that the one qualification that could be used is successful experience as a principal. This sounds like, to me, a loophole for a current FCPS principal to be hired. If we have not had equity here before, then how do we expect a change from a person from within? Or on the other hand, what school district is doing a good job in this equity area, and why aren't we incorporating that into FCPS? I do agree on the part in the announcement that says the qualification could be from a person who was a change agent change agent in a large organization. The job announcement and the current structure of FCPS does not list additional specialists or analysts to do equity work. This was a major complaint by Dr. Durant. It was him and his secretary. Of course, the new equity office will be staffed with about 400 positions coming from existing offices, but they will come with current full-time duties. Also, won't there be an apparent conflict of interest here? Because the chief equity officer may both manage and assess equity for programs they supervise. One thing the FCPS organizational chart is lacking is it does not have the Equity Employees Relations Office under the Chief Equity Office. Why not? Instead, it's under HR. Makes no sense. They are responsible for investigating and resolving non-discrimination complaints. Third item I'd like to bring up is a cultural proficiency training for school board members. How many board members have completed these training levels that all school personnel have to complete? I hope all or most. I know it's not required for board members, but I think it should be. Last but not least, I hope that the joint boards meeting later this month is productive and not a lot of talking. I have assumed the meeting will be in person because all the joint boards meetings have been done during Board of Supervisor Tuesdays. You all need to set the groundwork for maintaining at least the same level of funding for next year because early indications are that the amount will be less than the unwritten mandate of the 52 to 53%. Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Kimberly Adams, followed by Margaret Summers.
Good evening, Chairman Anderson, school board members, Dr. Braybrand, and leadership team. My name is Kimberly Adams, and I'm representing the Fairfax Education Association, a union representing thousands of employees in Fairfax County Public Schools, many of whom are also parents. This pandemic has changed so much about our lives and our jobs. The FEA is proud of our school board and our superintendent for making a virtual start to school. But we are still very concerned about the plans for a return to school buildings for our most vulnerable students, special education and English language learners. This is not in the best interest of those students, their families, nor the staff who work in those buildings. This should not be equity achieved by risking the lives of students and staff under a premise that their educational gap may be greater than their peers. This is setting up certain populations of students, some who actually may be more susceptible to COVID-19 and more at risk, as a test subject for what we have already seen in the news. We are likely to increase exposure and cases of this virus in our own community. You have a choice. Keep all learning virtual, or more people will die. Unfortunately, it is just that simple. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Margaret Summers, followed by Angela Wilson Turnbull.
Hi, my name is Margaret Summers. I'm here to talk about Thomas Jefferson High School for Science and Technology and its admissions process. My perspective on TJ is shaped by two different lenses. For one, I'm a TJ alumnus, class of 2007. Also, I am now a teacher in FCPS. I currently teach 5th grade advanced academics, or AAP, and previously I taught 3rd grade AAP for 7 years. I want to tell you a story about one of my students. Before tonight, I talked to the student and her family about what I would say at this meeting, and they not only approved, but they're watching now, so hi. Last year, when I worked as a 3rd grade AAP teacher, I had the opportunity to teach a truly special student. She is an incredible thinker and is so dedicated to learning. This child's favorite book is about electrons, and one of her favorite hobbies is writing computer code. One day, she found out I went to TJ, and she asked me, Ms. Summers, do you think I would like TJ? I hesitated. I hesitated because I do not want this student to have to endure the same things my friends did 17 years ago. She reminds me so much of my best friends, Kristen and Malika, not just because she is brilliant and truly a rising star, but also because she is Black. In previous school board meetings, Kristen and Malika, who were two of a small number of Black students in my graduating class at TJ, shared with you stories from their TJ experiences and how racism affected them every day. If a super intelligent student who is passionate about science and technology asks us if she might enjoy our county's, oh, am I still there? Yes, if she might enjoy our county's high school for science and technology, we should be able to say yes without reservation. But we can't, not yet, not until we center equity in all of our decisions about the school. The student I've talked about tonight is currently in 4th grade, so we have 4 years to fix things before she applies to TJ. But there are other students who will apply in 3 years and 2 years and next year and this year. Thinking about this year in particular, I am so worried about our kids taking the TJ admissions test. The test was already inequitable. The number of Black students admitted this past spring was too small for reporting. Now with COVID-19, the test would also introduce health risks if kids take it in person. If taken at home, it would present access and academic integrity concerns. Now is the perfect time to completely rethink TJ admissions and implement a process that is more holistic, student-centered, and anti-racist. Dr. Brabrand, in your back to school message to staff, you asked us to make a personal and professional commitment to put equity at the center of all that we do. You said we must confront racism and bias when we see it. That is great advice, and I'm here to support you in this mission and also to hold you accountable for it. We see racism and bias at TJ. Now is our chance to confront it and start with the new TJ admissions process this fall. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Angela Wilson Turnbull, followed by Diane Cooper Gould.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, thanks for the opportunity to speak to the school board. I'm Angela Wilson Turnbull, a resident of Fairfax County for over 20 years. I'd like to address the problem of exclusion of Black people for prime educational opportunities. I'm sharing my personal struggles in FCPS, my daughter being shut out of AAP and being told the program was closed and not available to a student like her, highlights she is one of many underrepresented minorities who have been harmed by the current policies. Admissions to Jefferson is currently not fair, nor is it effective for Fairfax County. While over 10% of our AAP students are on free and reduced price lunch, and 31% of students in general, less than 2% of TJ students are even lower than the student body at Langley, a damning commentary on how a lack of money is a barrier to Jefferson opportunities. The student body at TJ is less than 2% African American, a percentage you'd see in private schools back in the 1960s, while they had just begun admitting Black kids. Jefferson should have 48 Black students accepted a year, not 6. If the county's Latinx population was represented at TJ, they'd have 125 kids accepted each year, not 16. Black and Latinx taxpayers in Fairfax County are paying for a segregated school, one that is out of reach for our children and is offering huge opportunities to those who already have plenty. 100% of minority constituency pays taxes in support of governor elite high schools, but is being denied access to the resources that they pay for. Black taxpayers are paying to send white kids to elite schools. The school board must redesign the admissions process this year. Why? The TJ diversity struggle is littered with decades of minor attempts to remedy the problem without circling back to assess whether changes are effective. Unintended consequences are common. The test, which is completely preppable, has been compromised and ensures that those who can pay for the test prep gain unfair advantage over those who can't. How can you change? Top-tier universities and companies recognize the value of the diversity ads, and universities build their student body upon this premise. Fairfax County and TJ must do the same. As a result of COVID, 2020 is an ideal year to remove the standardized tests required to make it optional for TJ applicants. Many colleges now make standardized tests optional with a range of standardized tests accepted. Privilege bias every step of the way to the TJ admissions process must stop. The impacts. A change to DJ as the #1 high school in America as the model for STEM education could have ripple effects as a precedent across the country. In this way, Virginia could be a model for historic transformative change in education. We are requesting this bold change take place right now. Thank you for your time and your earnest attention.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Diane Cooper Gould, followed by Tina Williams.
Okay, just checking you can hear me. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, super. Good evening and welcome back to a strange new virtual school year. I'm Diane Cooper Gould, Advocacy Chair for Fairfax County SEPTA. And I'd first like to thank the school board for your long hours of service to our community during this pandemic and for your tireless work over the summer to keep FCPS moving forward. Tonight, I'm here to speak in support of the proposed 2021 Advisory Committee for Students with Disabilities, or ACSD charge. SEPTA is extremely proud to work hand in hand with the ACSD to advocate for students with disabilities, and this charge speaks very clearly to our shared goals and purposes. Since our inception in 2017, SEPTA has been advocating for more equity and consistency in the access to and administration and fidelity of all special education programming across Fairfax County. We've heard from literally hundreds of families about the problems that arise when policies and programs are applied differently in different regions, pyramids, different schools, and even within different classrooms and teams in the same school from year to year. We've also heard from staff members who are overwhelmed and frustrated by a lack of consistent messaging coming from school administration, PSLs, and central office specialists. Navigating special education is extremely challenging for families, staff, and administration alike. The fact that this pandemic has forced us all into a virtual environment has only added to these challenges. You've heard from tearful families and staff. You've probably even shed your own tears. But please know that SEPTA believes that we are all part of a team working together for our community as a whole. We encourage the school board and central office staff to show grace to their staff while continuing to push for excellence. We encourage you to give grace to our FCPS families who are extremely worried and afraid, and remind you to give yourselves some grace, and we will do the same. It's clear that this current FCPS school board has heard the concerns of special education families and staff. Your commitment to ensuring the completion of the special education audit shows this, and we thank you for it. And we also want to thank Mike Bloom for stepping into the role of acting assistant superintendent of DSS in the midst of likely the most challenging summer our special education team in Fairfax has ever faced. We appreciate the long hours that you and your staff have devoted to our community. And moving forward, we are extremely excited for the opportunity to work with incoming Assistant Superintendent of DSS, Dr. Michelle Boyd. We hope that she is empowered to help break through the silos that currently prevent the special education community from being integrated into the full FCPS culture. We hope that she is welcomed by the regional assistant superintendents and executive principals as someone who can help bring best practices to all of our FCPS schools. Thank you very much, and good luck this week.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Tina Williams, followed by our final speaker, Dee Ellisod.
Good evening, FCPS leadership and school board members. Thank you for your support of FCPS staff who are working tirelessly to prepare for the start to school on Tuesday. Staff are working around the clock and are already overwhelmed, overworked, and anxious for the start of school, and we know that FCPS leadership is also in a similar position. Only by working together, supporting and uplifting each other, will we have a successful school start that creates the best learning environment for our children. As we head into the start of school, we urge you to focus on the following 3 areas. Equity. Our educators are already experiencing a lack of consistency in terms of expectations. This means the educational experience for students across the county will differ. We also want to express our concern about a recent incident of hatred and violent language expressed against an FCPS staff member. We appreciate that Superintendent Braybrand and members of FCPS leadership have responded and supported this person. However, this issue underscores that systemic racism occurs in our school communities daily, and the urgent work that our entire FCPS community must do to foster an environment of anti-racism. We urge FCPS to strive for consistency and equity in every aspect of our school system. Communication. Our staff are all ready to begin working with students and have felt there is a lack of clarity or have received information at the last minute leading up to the start of the school year. We know FCPS is still finalizing many details, but it's challenging for staff to thoroughly prepare if they receive information at the last minute. We hope moving forward that FCPS can regularly provide updates to staff,
even if that means letting employees know that all the information is not yet available so that everybody has the best information possible to serve our students. Technology. Some staff are still reporting that they have not received school laptops. Others have been given laptops without video capabilities. Some staff still don't have Wi-Fi, and some support staff don't have access to online resources that they've been training on. We urge FCPS to eliminate these digital divides as quickly as possible because with them, we are hindering the ability of our students to learn. We know that this is a very challenging period, and we urge FCPS to resolve these issues as quickly as possible. I am humbled by the task in front of us, and I want you all to know that we are all in this together. FCFT, your employees are here to work with you because that is the only way we can accomplish things that are impossible on our own. Thank you. Thank you. Our final speaker is Didi Ellisod.
Hi, my name is Didi Ellisod. I'm a rising senior at TJ. I am not the first, and I guess I am the last for tonight, to argue that testing should be removed from this year's TJ admissions cycle, and you've heard a variety of reasons why. Health concerns include that we're currently in the midst of a global pandemic, making it dangerous for students and proctors. We could move it online, but ignoring the logistics behind that, online testing would worsen disparities due to the unequal access to reliable internet or technology devices, and the fact that not everyone has a quiet and comfortable testing environment at home. You've probably also heard that testing acts as a barrier to diversity, and that the diversity in question is typically socioeconomic status and race. However, there's another form of diversity that the current system is hindering, but no one is talking about: neurodiversity. In my 3 years at TJ, I have not once met a student with a disability. At least no one wants to talk about it. We don't even have clubs that support these students either, though there is no shortage of autism jokes. You might wonder, however, is the test really a barrier for these students? When I was in the AP, I was always in the same class as my friend who had special needs. He was so incredibly smart. I was partnered with him a lot, and it was always insane to me to see how much he knew. On the day of the TJ test, I found myself sitting right next to him. And in the middle of the test, he started to get really stressed out. He got louder and louder, and they had him escorted out of the room. I'm sure it's no surprise that he did not get into TJ. You could have asked anyone that knew him, whether it was the teachers or classmates like me. He was so incredibly gifted. He was smart, his grades reflected that, and it's students like him that TJ should be serving, but he never got that chance. The testing space was not suitable for him, and it weeded him out, just like so many other students. I'm not arguing for the removal of testing for selfish reasons. I don't want to see more Black students in spite of the Asian population at TJ. I'm not anti-Asian, and I'm not anti-immigrant, seeing that my parents are immigrants themselves. I am genuinely trying to make TJ more accessible for everyone. I want genuine diversity, and that's everything from race to socioeconomic status to artistic ability to neurodiversity. Not for my sake, but for all the students that are gifted in their own right, but don't have the resources to get through that door of opportunity. Please remove the testing for this year's round. If the colleges can do it, we can too. There are kids out there that are depending on this and that deserve this. Thank you.
Thank you. That was our final speaker.
Thank you. And now we will be moving on to Student Representative Matters, and I call on Mr. Anabudo.
Get out. Hi, can everyone hear me?
Yes.
So today it's the week's been kind of crazy, so I don't have any prepared comments for my student rep matters, but I will say I'm looking forward to the start of the school year, and I'm so excited for Tuesday, and I hope that everybody out there who's watching has the best possible first day and first week in school year, and that, like I said last time in my last student rep matters, I'm here to help anyone who needs it, especially students. So I've gotten a couple good emails and responses from you guys, so please keep reaching out. I'm excited to hear about how your school year starts and how it goes, and I'm here if you guys have any concerns. So thank you. I see the rest of my time. Thank you, Dr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Anabudo. At this time, we are up to our annual ERFC report, and I call on Dr. Brabrand for the introduction.
Thank you, Chairman Anderson. It's a pleasure to be able to present to you Eli Martinez, who's our Executive Director. Marty Smith and I had the opportunity about 3 years ago to bring Eli here to Fairfax County. He is just a wealth of experience and brings a leadership to ERFC that is unparalleled. And ERFC is part of the package of support that we give to attract a premier workforce, part of Goal 3, and really being able to have a retirement, not just a wage and salary, but a retirement part of our overall compensation approach that brings people here to Fairfax County Public Schools and gets them to stay. He is going to provide you the annual update of our ERFC work, our performance, and we'll be glad to take a few questions as needed this evening. And without further ado, Mr. Martinez.
Thank you, Dr. Brabrand, for that great introduction. Hopefully everybody can hear me now. I want to really start off by thanking the chair and the rest of the board for allowing me to update you on the status, the health and status of the ERFC benefits. I also want to thank Dr. Brabrand and the rest of the leadership team for their ongoing support. In addition, I want to just remind the board that this presentation is really for your information only. We don't expect any decisions to be made as a result of this presentation. By way of introduction, as Dr. Brabrand indicated, my name is Eli Martinez. I'm the Executive Director and Chief Investment Officer at ERFC. Joining me today are members of my team, Jim Rohner, Michael Lunter, and Lisa Scott. I'll be walking you initially through the key highlights of the presentation. We'll talk about the plan dynamics and the membership. I'll cover the financial strength of the organization, the cost efficiencies, some of the initiatives we've undertaken over the last 3 years. We'll summarize, and then we'll open up for questions. So for starters, as I indicated, I want to give you a brief overview of the key highlights of this presentation. The key takeaways. The first is that the 2001 Tier 2 plan is the only plan that's open for new membership, and it also happens to be the least expensive plan for FCPS. That'll become more significant and more clear later on in the presentation, how that impacts you as well. In addition, our performance continues to be strong. We've averaged 7.7% per year after fees for the last 10 years. We've also increased our funded ratio from 74 to 74.5% over the last year. Member benefits continue to be safe. And lastly, we continue to look at ways to keep competitive and increase our sustainability in a prudent manner versus our peers and in the industry. In the next slide, I just want to walk you through the history and some of the plan dynamics for the membership. I want you to bear with me in that I've added a couple slides for the benefit of those of you who might not be as familiar as others with respect to ERFC. For starters, ERFC was created through negotiations between the FEA and Fairfax County Public Schools as a way to support the quality of life at retirement and to increase retention and recruitment capabilities of high quality educators and support staff. The first plan that was created initially in 1973 was a legacy plan, and we'll talk about that later on as well in terms of membership dynamics. The next plan that was created by the school board was the 2001 Tier 1 plan. That plan then closed the prior plan and became a little bit less expensive for FCPS. And then in 2017, the school board created another plan that made the pension plan even less expensive for FCPS, the 2001 Tier 2 plan. That really hits the main milestones for 47 years of history of ERFC. Obviously, we've done a lot more, but in the interest of time, I won't cover everything. In the next slide, I just want to give you a brief overview of the oversight of the plan. We operate under the Code of Virginia, and we operate as a 401A under the IRS tax code. We have our own independent board. The Board of Trustees really has ultimate oversight of what happens at ERFC. We also work subject to the supervision and control of the FCPS school board. I think the important takeaway here is that we all operate under the Code of Virginia, and then ultimately any decisions that are made regarding the ERFC that impact the membership would have to be made in consideration of what's in the best interest of those members. Looking at this next slide, I think this is one of my favorite slides, only that there's a lot of hidden gems, and I'll try to uncover some of those with you today. This really shows you where the money comes from to fund this benefit. What you're seeing now on the screen is an 18% piece of a pie that's really put together by, contributed by the members of the system. Now, I'm not saying that the members we're not deducting 18% of the paycheck. What we're saying here is that the 3% of their pay that comes out of the pay every month really amounts to 18% of what it takes to cover the benefits in the future for these members as of June 30th, 2019. Similarly, the 6.44% that comes out of FCPS's funds to cover the benefit really amounts to 37% of what it costs to cover the plan. But by far, the lion's share of what it takes to pay for the plan comes from investment, growth, and earnings. I mentioned there was going to be a couple hidden gems here. The first one I want to offer you is the power that it brings to the employees of FCPS. If you think about what's happening here, if an employee wanted to recreate this benefit on their own, they would not only have to contribute 3% of their salary, but they would have to come up with another 6.44% contribution out of their salary. And in addition to that, they would actually have to find a way to guarantee themselves a 7.25% return over the life of their investment until they retired. So that's the first, I think, key takeaway on this. The next observation I would offer you here is the power that this brings to FCPS as an employer. For 1/3 of the cost of funding, giving an equivalent benefit in today's dollars, you're able to take advantage of the time value of money by investing in the stock market and offering employees a benefit that really grows to 2/3 more than what you're contributing. So it's a very, very powerful message here. Let's look at next the retirement plans that are covered under the ERFC plans. And so the first one really is, as I alluded to earlier, is the legacy plan. This was established in 1973. The majority of the membership in this plan is now retired, as you can see in green. We do have a sliver of population still actively working in this plan, that 3761 that you see in blue. And that plan is closed, and that membership is, as years go by, they retire, so that number is going down. The other plan that's, as I mentioned earlier, is closed to new membership is the 2001 Tier 1 plan. This plan was established in 2001. The majority of the membership really is actively employed for FCPS. You see a small population in green that has retired. This really is representative of individuals who have entered the system maybe later in their careers or at a later stage in their life and have reached a vestment period and have decided to retire. But it's certainly, as you can see, not representative or indicative of the rest of the population. The last plan is the 2001 Tier 2 plan, and that plan was established in 2017 by the school board. Important takeaway here is obviously there's no retirements from this plan. We don't expect any retirements until at least 2022 when the first member becomes vested. And at that point, we're probably looking at members who entered the system at later stages in the career. Next, I just want to give you some retirement projections. As you see here, again, we're not going to see the 2001 Tier 2 plan on the next slide because there hasn't been any retirement projections. So what you're seeing now is the retirements from the 2001 Tier 1 plan, excuse me, in green, and the legacy plan in blue over the last 10 years. Really, the takeaway here is that the 2001 Tier 1 plan is a less expensive plan for FCPS. So as time goes by and that green bar becomes bigger than the blue bar, your plan becomes less expensive. We're projecting that by 2029, the 2001 Tier 1 plan will actually be larger than will be actually larger in terms of retirements than the legacy plan. So the green bar will be bigger than the blue bar by 2029. I want to now just pivot to the sustainability of the plan, and you'll see a couple different end dates in the coming slides. I think that's really because we wanted to make sure we use the latest public information when we compare ourselves to other plans. And in addition, we want to give you a couple different dates in terms of how we look at ourselves in the industry and the numbers that we use to set our contribution rates. So first and foremost, I just want to talk to you about sustainability, because that's a very important word with ERFC. We want to make sure that the plan continues to be sustainable. And I can say that unequivocally that ERFC is sustainable in perpetuity. I can say that comfortably because we have a 47-year track record of meeting ERFC assumptions over the long term. We also are happy to say that FCPS has a 47-year track record of funding their payments in full and on time. And so that's very significant. Next, I want to look at the performance of the plan. What you're seeing now is the fiscal year end performance as of June 30th of 2019. This is obviously a very short-term number, and I'm going to show you, 6 months later what it looks like. Really, in this industry, we're long-term investors. The short-term numbers are blips on the map. They change a lot. But for the 1 year ending 2019, June 30th, 2019, we were at 4.7% after fees. What we'd like to look at and focus on more is the long-term numbers. So our average return over the last 10 years was 8.9% after fees. I also want to show you how we compare versus one of our local plans, the FCPS, Fairfax County government plans. But first, I want to just introduce you to what you're going to see. In green, you're looking at our performance at 4.7% as of June 30th of 2019 after fees. You're also looking at $2.5 billion in assets that we had under our charge. We also have 28 staff that administer the system. And I'm happy to say that we've been able to reduce our headcount over the last few years, and I'll talk about some of those efforts as well and how they tie in. And then our funded ratio, which I mentioned, has increased over the last year. So the three plans is that you're looking at here are the Fairfax County plans, the uniform plan, the police officers plan, and the employees retirement system plan. These are the ones in blue. You can see their stats there. Importantly, you can see that as compared to the Fairfax County employees retirement system, our plan is slightly better funded. If you look at all three plans combined, if you take a weighted average of the returns, you're looking at the returns a little bit closer to what FCPS returned at the end of June 30th of 2019. And if we move forward, if we fast forward 6 months down the road, and you look at our performance at December, you're going to see what I was talking about earlier, and in that the market is very volatile. And while we're very proud that we made 17.1% return as of December after fees, the important thing is that over the long run, we still managed to outperform our target, which is 7.25% on average after fees. We don't expect 17% every year. We expect that, again, on average, we're going to outperform over the long term the 7.25%. The next slide is one of the most, I would say, complicated topics in the pension fund industry, and I'm going to try to demystify it a little bit for you. Hopefully I'm successful, but we'll see how I do here. So what you're looking at now are the liabilities, the unfunded liabilities for ERFC over the last 10 years, and that those blue bars. Really, unfunded liabilities is a really ugly word. Number one, it doesn't make a lot of sense when you first hear it. Secondly, it doesn't really convey what this is. What this really is telling us is that an unfunded liability is what you owe for past service provided. I'm going to try to give you an analogy that I think fits this case. If you think about your mortgage, most of us have or will have a mortgage at some point in our lives. You think about a mortgage, as long as you're making your payments in full and on time, your mortgage will eventually get paid off. And I don't know very many people who open up their bank statement, their mortgage statement, and look for ways to pay their mortgage off the very next day. I think that's the way you should think about an unfunded liability. As long as you pay your payments in full and on time, your mortgage will be paid off. So continuing on with the mortgage analogy, I want to add one more layer of complexity. This green line that you're seeing now on your screen, this really is representative of what we have divided by what we owe. So if you think about this in your own personal finances, this would be akin to comparing what the balance of your checkbook, of your checking account, to what you owe on your mortgage balance. So in other words, if we liquidated the ERFC assets today, we would be able to pay off 74.5% of our mortgage. Now, chances are we would probably not want to pay all our mortgage tomorrow, and so this is a very healthy number. But an important takeaway here, and what you can kind of glean from this, is that we're able to keep our funded ratio, that green line, very, very steady and very flat over the last 10 years, going to 77% at the maximum and 74% at the minimum. This has positive implications for FCPS. You're able to project the cost of the plan going forward more easily. You're able to also control the shock to the system in terms of your mortgage payments. And so that kind of begs the question, and you might be thinking, well, Eli, that's all great, but when are we going to pay off our mortgage? I want to look at that now. Before I do want to introduce another concept that you might be familiar with, an HOA fee. A lot of us, in addition to a mortgage here in Fairfax County, might be subject to HOA fees. I know that I am. And so when you think about paying off a mortgage, even if you paid off your mortgage tomorrow, you would still have that HOA fee, unfortunately. And so this next slide really starts off with your HOA fee. The 2001 Tier 2 plan, normal cost. The normal cost is your HOA fee. That's something that will never go away. Fortunately for FCPS, your Tier 2 plan is actually coming down in cost. So your HOA fee is coming down over time. So that's a benefit to you. And then your funded status is slated to come up. Again, this translates into your mortgage balance is slated to come down. If you want to think of it in opposites, I know it might be a little confusing there, but and at the end of the day, by 2040, your mortgage is slated to be paid off, or we're thinking about this in pension terms. We're looking at being 100% funded. So now let's look at your contribution rates and think of the contribution rates as your actual mortgage payment. So your mortgage payment over the next 2 years is divided into two parts. The first part in green is your employee, the cost from your employees. That's being contributed by the employees on a monthly basis to the pension fund. And then the second part is coming from FCPS. This is your employer rate. And so what you can see here is that the rates are going up from 6.44% to 6.7%. I'll explain why in a couple slides, so bear with me. I first want to show you what the rates have looked like over the last 10 years. And as you can see here, again, in green, you're seeing the employee contribution rates at 3% over the last 10 years. So those haven't really changed a lot. The employer rate is gradually increasing. There is a reason for that. I'll give you one of the reasons. One, the school board has in the past actively decided to, in lieu of giving employees immediate pay raises, that taking advantage of the time value of money would be a better idea, and reducing the employee rate from 4% to 3% would have a less of an immediate impact on the budget potentially. And so that was an avenue to reward employees. In addition, in the next slide, just to keep on the mortgage analogy, sometimes when we have a mortgage, we also, or a home, we also decide to add on a room or remodel our home. And then some of us might decide to take on a home equity line of credit. Think of what you're going to see next as a home equity line of credit. Remember, when you take on a home equity line of credit, that's an additional payment or a payment on top of your original mortgage. So the first thing that you can think about is maybe the addition to the home, adding more people. FCPS has been fortunate over the last few years to be able to grow its employee population, its employee base, and that has an impact on the costs. And think about that as an additional home equity line credit. In addition, we've also been fortunate to be able to give pay raises to our employees. Think about that as remodeling your home and taking out a home equity line of credit as well. And then also there's, this market volatility that I alluded to earlier that, nobody really can avoid who's invested in the market. For example, in years like 2008, where the market really went down substantially, and we were able to really smooth that loss over 5 years. Now that didn't come for free. What happens in years like 2019, where we had that 17% return, we're going to have to smooth that also over 5 years. So we don't get immediate recognition on the big losses or the big gains, and that's just best actuarial practices. But by far the biggest contributor to the cost of the pension plan going up, the mortgage payments going up, is really time. If you think about your original amortization schedule, where you originally started with 30 years to pay off your mortgage, and now you have 20 years, any additions to your home, any remodels to your home are going to have a magnified impact to your payments, to your mortgage payments. So as time goes by, any new changes, and the clock ticks by, any new changes when we get to 10 years, any changes on your part are something that you're really going to have to consider in terms of the impact to the pension plan, because we're going to be closer to paying off our mortgage. It's not all bad news. I just want to share with you, and something that we're really proud of. We happen to have one of the best boards in the industry. The Board of Trustees has been extremely forward-thinking, really proactive in terms of thinking about sustainability of the plan. We started off in 2018 with a strategic plan that really focused on sustainability as a main endeavor. One of the things we were able to accomplish over the last 3 years really set us up for saving over $40 million in investment manager fees over the next 10 years. That's the equivalent of saying that the ERFC Board of Trustees walked in with a $25 million check and deposited it into the pension fund, and to let it grow over the next 10 years. It has the same impact. We didn't stop there. We're also looking at the fund operations. We're looking at ways to improve our operations internally. We're looking at becoming a Lean Six Sigma organization. This is really the gold standard in any industry in terms of increasing efficiency and quality of service. We want to really cement the mindset of continuous improvement as an organization. We want to make sure that one of our goals before the end of the fiscal year is really to achieve a U.S. Productivity and Quality Award, to be recognized. This is something that not many pension funds have been able to do. We also want to make sure that we continue this mindset going forward in terms of improving sustainability. But the small changes that we've been able to impact thus far really amount to $2.5 million in savings, in addition to what I showed you in the previous slide, over the next 10 years. Just wrapping up to the end of this, before we open up for questions, I wanted to talk to you about some of the initiatives, again, that were part of our strategic plan in 2018 that have really paid dividends over the last year and really coming into this virtual environment. One of our goals was really to revamp our communication efforts. Part of that was revamping our website. We made it more user-friendly. We made it more relatable, and we increased our transparency to the public as well. We're also looking at forms. I don't think anybody likes to fill out government forms. We want to take that away. We want to make them simple. We want to make them intuitive. I can tell you that retirement is not easy. It's not an easy decision. There's a lot of individuals that come to us who really have mixed feelings about retirement, and forms just make that even harder. And we want to make sure to alleviate that pain point. We're also looking at improving our video content. We've added a lot of video content over the last 6 to 8 months, especially during COVID. We had already started on this path, ways where our members can access education remotely at their fingertips. We have things on MyPD now. We have training videos, we have education videos, and so on. And we're going to continue doing this on an ongoing basis. Lastly, we're looking at revamping our brochures. We want to make these more relatable. We recognize that FCPS teachers and support staff are very busy individuals, especially now in a virtual environment, and we want to make sure they're able to digest the information that they need in a very short manner, in a relatable manner, and they're able to understand it at the end of the day. One of the things that you might be aware of, some of you might be aware of, is our ambassador program. This program started in 2016 as a way to use FCPS volunteers that are located on site through all of FCPS locations to really help distribute and guide members to ERFC resources. It's been very successful. We've made a lot of progress. It started with 14 individuals in 2016. We're up at 186. We're very proud of that number. Our goal really by the end of the year is to hit 200, or at least one ambassador at every school location, or every FCPS location, excuse me. And so to recap, and in summary, really, the 2001 Tier 2 plan is the only plan that's open and growing. Remember that it's your least expensive plan. Think about this as your HOA payment, and your HOA payment is slated to come down. And the plan as a whole has performed well. We've achieved our long-term return targets. The plan remains stable. Remember, this is our funded ratio. The ratio of your checking account assets to what we owe for our mortgage has been very stable, and we're well funded. Our costs remain relatively low. We continue to look for ways to increase our sustainability in that manner. And then lastly, we're growing our awareness and looking for ways to continue to position FCPS as a top employer and increase your competitive status amongst your peers as well. So with that, maybe I'll open up for questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martinez, for that presentation. At this point, we will open the floor for questions from our school board members.
Thank you. Ms. Corbett Sanders, go ahead.
Thank you for this very informative and detailed presentation. It has, in my 4 years, now 5 years on the board, this is probably the most comprehensive presentation that I have seen for the ERFC, so I greatly appreciate it. I'm also very appreciative of the work you have done in creating more efficiencies and putting in the best practices that are showing real returns in how the ERFC fund is being managed. I only have one question for you, and you might not have this information today, and if you don't, that's fine. If somebody could get it to me, I'd appreciate it. And that is whether you have a comparison of the employer contribution rate provided to the other Fairfax County funds.
I'm sorry I don't have that with me, but we can get it to you.
That would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Additionally, I would just hope that we make this a more, that we ensure that this is on our board calendar every year. In the past, we've actually had a work session with ERFC. Are we planning on having a work session on this subject, Madam Chair?
No, we were intending to have the conversation that we typically have during this meeting because of our schedule, just attempting to balance it out a little bit. So all of the questions that we typically would have during that work session can be had tonight. We've budgeted time for that.
Okay, thank you very much. Just as a next steps in the future, if we could return to having a more robust work session discussion on this. I know this year is very unusual because of what we're dealing with COVID-19 and the return to school, but in the future it would be great.
Thank you. Did you have any other questions, Ms. Corbett-Sanders?
No, Mr. Martinez is going to provide that information to the board, and it would be very helpful. Once we have that information, we can have other conversations.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I think we are all very impressed by the detailed information that you provided to us this evening, Mr. Martinez. And since we haven't any more questions from our school board members, I will turn it over to you for closure because I believe you had a few more slides.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I actually, those are just appendix slides in case there were questions. I don't have any other comments on my presentation. I will just add that, I want to also thank our chair, Kimberly Adams. She's been fantastic in terms of supporting the pension plan. And, we really couldn't do a lot of the things that we've done without that support.
Thank you very much. And thank you for joining us this evening. Have a good night. Dr. Brabrand, did you want to offer any other statements?
I think Ms. Corbett-Sanders nailed it. This is the best presentation, Mr. Martinez, that's been done for this board in years. Thank you for your leadership. And we're grateful that you came to Fairfax County Public Schools, and we're grateful you're here leading ERFC to new levels of excellence. So thank you. And I'll see you soon, Eli. Thank you.
Sounds good. Great to be here.
Thank you all. This is the portion of the meeting where the board will confirm any action regarding issues that were discussed in the closed meeting. These issues may include action taken regarding student disciplinary matters. Board members have discussed each individual case, and at this time, we will make several motions to confirm the recommended action. I'm struggling this evening. I will call on Ms. Corbett-Sanders for the motion.
Yes, I move to excuse from attendance at school certain students identified in the closed meeting pursuant to Virginia Code Section 22.1 through 254B1.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Tolan. All in favor of the motion? Oh, I'm so sorry. Did we need to speak to the motion, Ms. Corbett-Sanders?
I think the motion speaks for itself, Dr. Anderson. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Tolan, did you want to speak to your second?
No, I don't need to speak to my second. Thank you.
Thank you. All in favor, please raise your hands. We have Mr. Frisch, Ms. Marin, Ms. Diane Cooper, Ms. Corbett-Sanders, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, Ms. Tolan, myself, Ms. Cohen, Ms. Keys-Gamarra, Ms. Pekarsky, and Ms. McLaughlin. Thank you very much. Please lower your hands. At this time, I call on Ms. Sizemore-Heiser for a motion regarding the ACSD Advisory Committee charge.
Pardon me, Madam Chair, will you also please call for the no votes and the abstentions?
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. Are there those who are against the motion that was previously shared by Ms. Corbett-Sanders? All those against? Ms. McLaughlin, thank you. All those abstaining?
No, Chairman Anderson, I voted yes.
Okay, thank you.
I was
So
already
we
roll
have,
call for yes.
I appreciate that. I didn't remember that. So we have no votes and we have no abstentions at this point. No, we have one abstention. Ms. Omesh, is that correct?
Yeah.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, we have one abstention and 11 votes for yes. Thank you. I will turn it over now to Ms. Sizemore-Heiser.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the school board approve the ACSD charge for the 2020-2021 Students with Disabilities School Board Citizen Advisory Committee as detailed in the agenda item.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Pekarsky. Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, would you like to speak to your motion?
Just very briefly, I'm very excited about this charge. I think, as one of our speakers spoke earlier, reviewing the fidelity of implementation, ensuring consistency in our special education service delivery, as well as making sure that our wonderful resources and expertise in our Department of Special Services are utilized in a consistent way to support our students and teachers across the county is a great charge and something that I think will help all of our students and teachers implement the services for our students with disabilities. So I'm very excited about this charge, and I appreciate the hard work that Mike Bloom and his department and the ACSD Chair Connie Lorenzen have done to come up with this charge. And I really appreciate their work and efforts. I'm highly in support of this.
Thank you, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser. Ms. Pekarsky, would you like to speak to your second?
I just want to say thank you to Mike Bloom and to ACSD Chair and the committee for working to get this just right for next year. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Would any of our colleagues like to speak to this motion? Okay, seeing none. The motion before us is I move that the school board approve the ACSD charge for the 2021 Students with Disabilities School Board Citizens Advisory Committee as detailed in the agenda item. All those in favor? We have Ms. Pekarsky, Mr. Frisch, Ms. Cohen, Ms. Corbett-Sanders, Ms. Omesh, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, Ms. Dana Koufax, Ms. Marin, Ms. Tolan, myself, Ms. Keys-Gamarra, and Ms. McLaughlin. All those opposed? There are none. All those abstaining? There are none. The motion carries. At this time, I call on Ms. Omesh for the motion regarding our standard school year calendar.
I believe it's Ms. Marin. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm so sorry. It's Ms. Marin for the school year calendar.
Actually, I was going to defer to Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, please.
Sizemore-Heiser, you have the floor.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. I would like to make a motion to remove the 2021-2022 standard school year calendar off tonight's agenda item and instead ask our chair to bring the reviewing the calendar to a work session to have a further discussion to review our calendar in the lens of educational best practices in light of COVID and the needs that COVID has on the remediation needs and other needs of our students and how education can be reimagined going forward.
Is there a second? Ms. Cohen, thank you for your second. Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, would you like to speak to your motion?
Yes, just briefly, I think, I know there's a lot of work that went into framing this calendar, but a lot of the thought and discussion around this calendar was done in a pre-COVID era. And just as we've had to redo and reimagine so much of how we're delivering education due to the realities of COVID, and honestly, I think the long-term needs of our students due to the realities of COVID, I think it's important to look at our calendar again from this sort of COVID knowledge lens in terms of reimagining education, reimagining what our students' needs might be, and really focusing on academics and educational best practices in the era of COVID. So I think it would behoove us as a board to really take a deeper dive into our calendar and what might be what might best meet the schedule and educational needs of our students.
Thank you very much. Ms. Cohen, would you like to speak to your second?
I just echo what my colleague, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, just said about, I think we really need a relook at how we make sure that we're going to meet the needs of our kids, given what last year brought us, and this year, unfortunately, with COVID. It gives us some opportunities to look at framing best practices. So I'm excited to second this motion and grateful for Ms. Marin's support because of all the work that the committee did going into this.
Thank you. Would any colleagues like to speak to this motion? Ms. Marin, please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I had served as the board's liaison to the calendar committee earlier this year. And in addition to agreeing with the points made tonight about how unknown the future is and how we can actually leverage some better practices that can come out of this experience, you know, the calendar committee, which was made up of community members and staff, talked at length about how even back then before COVID, the calendar could better serve students. And that was a conversation that included a wide array of people. So I think that it's a really good opportunity. And although our community does like to know what's happening well in advance, I think right now in this time, in this era, we can put a hold on this and talk about it more deeply as a full board as we deliberate. So thank you. I support the motion.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers? Seeing none, I will call for the vote on this motion. The motion made by Ms. Sizemore-Heiser is, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, please read your statement again, please.
Absolutely. I'd like to make a motion to remove the 2021-2022 standard school year calendar off tonight's agenda and instead ask the chair to bring reviewing the calendar to a school board work session.
All those in favor? We have Ms. Corbett-Sanders, Ms. Pekarsky, Ms. Marin, Ms. Cohen, Ms. Omeish, Ms. Keys-Gamarra, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, Ms. McLaughlin, Ms. Tolan, Mr. Frisch, Ms. Derenak Kaufax, and myself. And I believe that is unanimous. That is 12. Thank you. Please lower your hands.
At this time, we'll be moving to our consent agenda. Our adopted rules of parliamentary procedure, Robert's Rules, provide for a consent agenda listing several items for approval of the board by a single motion. Many items listed have gone through the board review and documentation has been provided to all board members and to the public in advance. Items may be removed from the consent agenda at the request of any board member prior to the meeting. 5.01, approve the minutes of the regular school board meetings as detailed in the agenda item. 5.02, approve the bus pass memorandum of agreement with the county. 5.03, approve contract change order number 7 for the Mason Crest geothermal project, in the total amount of $60,315.94, and 2, authorize the division superintendent or the assistant superintendent of facilities and transportation services, either of whom may act without the other, to accept, execute, deliver, and administer change order number 7, as well as any future change orders on the project on behalf of the school board, with a copy of any such future executed change orders to be promptly filed with the clerk of the board for distribution to the members for their information. 5.04, consent to revised policy as reviewed by the governance committee. 5.05, adopt a resolution stating the board's intention to be reimbursed for eligible equipment purchases with proceeds from the FY 2021 State Technology Grant, which is funded with Virginia Public School Authority bonds. 5.06, appoint individuals to serve on committees as detailed in the agenda item. Is there any objection to approving the consent agenda? Seeing none, the consent agenda is approved. New business. The following are new business agenda items. There will not be a vote on these items tonight, but action is scheduled at a future meeting. 6.01, consider the renaming of Mosby Woods Elementary School as outlined in our Regulation 8170. 6.02, award the contract for the running track replacement at Lewis High School to Field Turf USA Incorporated in the amount of $328,579, and authorize the division superintendent or the assistant superintendent of facilities and transportation services to execute and administer the contract on behalf of the school board. 6.03, award the contract for the running track replacement at Thomas Jefferson High School to Field Turf USA Incorporated in the amount of $368,615, and authorize the division superintendent, the assistant superintendent of facilities and transportation. I'm sorry? And authorize the division superintendent or the assistant superintendent of facilities and transportation services to execute and administer the contract on behalf of the school board. 5.04, appoint individuals to serve a one-year term on the Challenge Materials Interdepartmental Review Committee as detailed in the agenda item. 6.05, authorize the assistant superintendent in consultation with staff and legal counsel to take all actions necessary and appropriate to finalize and grant the Fairfax County easement, over the relevant portion of West Springfield High School. 6.06, adopt the newly revised 2020 Fairfax County Purchasing Resolution previously adopted by the Board of Supervisors, subject to the conditions detailed in the agenda item. At this point, I will call on the superintendent for superintendent matters, Dr. Brabrand.
Thank you, Chairman Anderson. I just have a few comments this evening. First, I want to say, just from the bottom of my heart, a big thanks to our staff. Our staff members have been working nonstop these past weeks and months to prepare our students for the very best and safest start to school. I'm very proud of all of them. I can safely say to you all tonight and to this community, this is the biggest challenge FCPS has ever faced, and every one of our teachers and support staff and principals and central office staff and leadership team have risen to this occasion. I could not be prouder to be superintendent of this school system, to see what our individuals have done each and every day. And so to our staff members this evening, I hope you take a moment this weekend to truly rest and recharge, enjoy the Labor Day weekend, and come back ready, as I know you will be, to provide a world-class education to our students in Fairfax County schools. I also want to thank our families and students. I know how hard this pandemic has been on our students and families. It's not the way you wanted your school year to start. It is at the end of all the things that we had to look at, the right way to begin. And it is my hope that we will be able to end this year differently with our students back in school full time. No matter what, I can't predict the future. None of us can. What I can tell you with 100% certitude is that our teachers and staff will give their very best every day to support the students and families of Fairfax County Public Schools. I want to also thank all the members of our reopening of school task force. We've been working with them all summer to get their feedback as we have prepared for this reopening, and we will continue to be working with them through the first quarter of the year and working on making sure we continue the positive momentum into the school year. I also want to thank our Superintendent's Technology Advisory Committee. You all got to hear from one of the co-chairs, Greg Baroni, just a few weeks ago. All of them have done amazing work, and I am grateful to everything they have done to support our team. And I want to thank all of our community partners who've been partnering with our schools, with our Director of Business Partnerships, Jay Garant, and working with Elizabeth Murphy and our Education Foundation to really step forward in a time of need and provide additional services and supports to our families. Finally, I just want to say we are ready for Tuesday. We are ready for the first day of school for this school year. I know there will be challenges along the way, some that we may not be able to know in this moment, but I do know in this moment that we will rise to meet the challenge, and we will continue to go above and beyond to deliver an exceptional educational experience to all of our students and families. And I'm grateful for everything that's been done. I'm grateful for our team, and I'm excited very excited to start a new school year in Fairfax County Public Schools. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Brand, for those remarks. At this time, we will move to board committee reports. I call on Ms. Sizemore-Heiser for an update from the Public Engagement Committee and Ms. Tolan for an update from the Joint Environmental Task Force.
Great. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to share. We had our first Public Engagement Committee meeting yesterday of our newly reconstituted Public Engagement Committee for this next year. And I'm very, very excited. We took some time to really delve deep into the public engagement charge. I believe, and I know our committee agrees with us, that there's never really been a more important time to make sure that we're communicating and engaging our community as we move forward into this unusual and unprecedented school year, to make sure we hear the voices of our community and communicate out to them and stay connected and keep them engaged. So we looked at our charge and reviewed the charge around planning strategies, topics, timelines, and others matters related to board and community dialogues and public engagement with stakeholders. And we broke this down into two pieces: the communication piece and the engagement piece. Now, the communications piece, I'm really excited to say that as a committee, we are going to work hand in hand with our communications staff, our FCPS communications staff and OCCR, to really help coordinate board communications around major initiatives and items that are coming up, to make sure that we inform our community of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what the goals and outcomes that we were hoping to have. So we really keep our community informed and also engaged in the work of the board and the work in the board of overseeing our system, to make sure that our system is providing excellent education. So I'm very, very excited to really have our committee delve deep into the work of communications on a consistent basis, working with our OCCR team. And then in addition to that, we looked at the engagement piece of our charge and how do we really ensure in this 21st century that we are engaging our public in the variety of ways that we're used to, whether it's through town halls, through use of social media, through apps. And we decided as a committee, we're really going to delve into being best practices and recommendations to our colleagues on the board of how can we truly engage all of our diverse populations in the 21st century, as well as looking at our citizen participation practices in our governance manual. This is ongoing work from the previous PEC committee on revising our citizen participation practices in our public meetings. So we'll be bringing that work to our full board colleagues as well. And finally, we have a pending forum topic to look at our committee structure and processes and procedures to make sure, again, we're really maximizing community engagement and hearing community voice and communicating out. And that's also work we're bringing, if our board colleagues approve the forum topic next week, we'll be working on in our public engagement committee. So there's a lot of exciting work that I think we're taking on as public engagement, but the most exciting piece is really making sure that our charge is being fulfilled consistently and helping partner with our board to provide that coordination on communication so our public knows what we're doing and feels like a partner in our board work, and we're representing the voice of our constituents and the people. So that's the update on the PEC committee. We're excited to do this work, and I'll have more next month after we meet again.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser. Ms. Tolan.
Yes, thank you. Carl Frisch and I are very excited to report that the Joint Environmental Task Force is working toward having a set of recommendations by early October that we can present to both the school board and the board of supervisors. We met yesterday evening, and each of our 4 subgroups, energy, waste reduction, transportation, and workforce development, have draft recommendations on topics ranging from net zero energy goals, electrifying our bus and car fleets, procurement with an eye toward less waste, using the sustainable features in our buildings as learning tools, and collaborating further across county agencies to bring our students internships, apprenticeships, and rich interactions with environmental professionals that can enhance career possibilities and more. To formulate these recommendations, the JET met in person and virtually since its inception in April of 2019. Both Carl and I joined the JET just in this past January in 2020. I want to extend a huge thank you to our FCPS staff in facilities and maintenance, energy management, career and technical education, Get to Green, Transportation, and Design and Construction for giving our task force guidance along the way. Your expertise and on-the-ground experience has been incredibly valuable in putting these recommendations together. Carl and I will be meeting with our Board of Supervisor counterparts, Penny Gross and Dan Stork, on September 16th to discuss our next steps and how we will work to inform each board about the details of the final recommendations and how we will jointly announce the work that the JET has done to date. The recommendations will need to be looked at by staff experts in FCPS and across our county agencies to determine the budgetary impacts and reasonable next steps for implementation. So then each board can get that information and make decisions on which recommendations to move forward with. So that's where we are. And we're looking forward to bringing you more in late September and October. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Toland, for that informative update. We do have one more. Ms.
Marion, please go ahead and provide a budget update.
Yes, so our budget committee is working on two budgets right now. One is the current budget operating, which is the fiscal 21-22 budget. So we're executing that budget. And that work includes requesting additional money from the County Board of Supervisors under the Federal CARES Act, which was sent over to the county this week. We're also managing the CARES Act funding that will come from the government that the district receives directly. So we received about $19 million from directly for our school district, and the County Board of Supervisors received $200 million Federal CARES Act funding, of which we are seeking about $19 million to cover immediate needs to deal with COVID costs. We'll also be having a first quarter review coming up, and that will keep us on top of this year's funding. Additionally, we are beginning to prepare for the next budget, that's fiscal year 22. So that would be the budget that begins next July. And school board members have been having conversations with the superintendent, our chief financial officer, and finance staff to start to determine our priorities for the year. And at our meeting in September, our regular school board meeting, our public meeting, staff will present their summary and analysis of these conversations that we've been having. So that will be a very interesting conversation to hear and continue. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Marin.
At this time, I would call on our colleagues for their updates. Ms. Cohen, please go ahead, followed by Ms. Corbett-Sanders.
Thank you very much. First, just wanted to start off in the same vein as Dr. Brabrand and really thank staff. I know this has been one heck of a learning curve since March 13th. So thank you for all you have done to get us ready for Tuesday. I know it has been a Herculean effort and has meant working well into the night and weekends, and it is so appreciated, not only by this board, but definitely speaking as a parent. We sure appreciate all your hard work. And now we're gonna call on your patience with us as we learn to bridge this new horizon for us, and your patience with some of us who are more technically challenged than probably our students. So thank you. I also wanted to thank the Cherry Run community for the amazing response to my book drive, and wanted to highlight a couple of students, FCPS students, Ben Messersmith from Boy Scout Troop 698, who worked to earn his reading badge by collecting 608 books to donate, and Miss Riley Kozal from Girl Scout Troop 2922, who collected over 1,500 books to earn her Silver Award. With their help since April, we've collected and distributed over 3,000 books to elementary school students during grab and go meal pickup. And I'm so grateful for the support. Later this month, I'll resume my PTA roundtables and listening sessions. I want to hear all about week 1. And so please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My 8th and 10th graders will be figuring it all out with your kids as well. And I look forward to hearing all of the awesome things that happen. And certainly let me know if there's anything that we can be helpful with. We'll be in it with you, and very nervous on Tuesday morning as we watch our kids take a first step in a very different way this year. I hope your families have lovely Labor Day weekend. Be careful, be safe, and be ready for Tuesday morning when we get to start this school year officially. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Cohen. Ms. Corbett Sanders, followed by Ms. General Kofax.
Sorry, I was a little delayed in getting my video on. It is amazing that we are just 5 short days away from the start of the new school year. And I too want to thank not only our staff and our teachers and everybody who's been working around the clock to be ready for this new virtual start. But I also want to thank our community members that have leaned in and helped everybody in our most vulnerable communities with the supports that are just necessary to get through the difficult times we've been through. And I want to do a special shout out to both ICNA and their support of the backpack drive at Mount Vernon High School this past week, and Alice's kids for their funding of home learning packages for some of our Title I kids, which includes earbuds to be able to more effectively engage in the virtual learning experience, because many of our students will be in relatively tight learning, multiple kids accessing the virtual classroom in the same room in their homes. And so these earbuds are a great contribution from Alice's kids. So I do want to thank them. I also look forward to hearing from everybody about the experiences that they are going to have on Tuesday. We want to hear all the great experiences your children have. And if you have any challenges, please know that we're here to try to support you in those challenges. There is an excellent hotline for parents and students to access for technology. And we know that this may be a challenge, but we want to make sure that we're all in this together and make this a positive experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Devarakanda Kofax, followed by Mr. Frisch.
Sorry, took a little while. I too, as my colleagues have spoke, I want to thank Dr. Brabrand and his leadership team, all the teachers and principals and staff for the very hard work that they have done to get us to where we will be on Tuesday. This pandemic has challenged our board and our staff in ways that we could not have imagined at the beginning of this calendar year, and I am proud of the work that we have done together to get us ready for the virtual opening on Tuesday. To our parents and students, I hope you know how excited our teachers are to begin this new year virtually with their students. And for our parents, we have lots of new resources to help you during this distance learning time. And I've watched them. Some of them are just incredible. We have some podcasts, we have a parent help desk, and we have videos filled with tips on virtual learning. So I thank our staff for doing that and getting that together. And I just want everyone to know that I am confident that we are going to be in a good place with our virtual start. And I just hope everyone has a successful start on Tuesday. Again, as my colleagues referenced, our board is here. You know how to reach us. Our contact information is on the website. If you're having challenges, of course, first start with your teacher. your principals, your counselors, but we are also here as a board to help listen to your concerns if any arise. But I look forward to hearing all the first day opening positive stories that we hope to see and hear, and have a great Labor Day weekend, and do some more summer fun before we get started on our new year.
Thank you, Ms. Derenak Kofax. Mr. Frisch, followed by Ms. Keys-Gamarra.
Thank you, Chairman Anderson. I want to thank everybody, as everybody has said, for their hard work in preparing for this coming Tuesday. Not only our staff and our amazing teachers and support staff, but also for the parents who are getting their students ready to engage in distance learning. I think we all know that this return to school is unlike any fall we've ever experienced before. So, I look forward to hearing all of the stories that there are to be had this week. I've been fortunate to continue to meet with constituents, although virtually. And as people heard in the meeting earlier tonight, the board has moved forward with the process of renaming Mosby Woods Elementary School. So now a 30-day clock has begun, and we will begin the community engagement portion of the process. I look forward to talking about that process with the Mosby Woods community at the PTA meeting, the Mosby Woods Elementary School PTA meeting later this month. This week, I completed my 240th hour of office hours scheduled to hold meetings with Providence District families, parents, students, teachers, staff, since we began the school closure back in March. I'll close by saying I think we all know that our ability to make the most of this difficult situation is incumbent upon parents and teachers and staff to share their honest feedback with us, the good and the bad, about their experiences with distance learning. And we need to know what's working and what needs improvement so that we can make things better. So please don't hesitate to continue reaching out to me during this time of social distancing. Hearing directly from constituents is extremely important. We are all in this together, and I thank everybody from the bottom of my heart for the support and dedication they've shown to our students, to our staff, and to our families. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frisch. Ms. Keys-Gamarra, followed by Ms. McLaughlin.
I will have to continue the chorus of thank yous. I know from having spoken to so many people in our community, especially students, and having been able to have town halls discussing issues on the minds of our students, looking forward to what can happen next as we change these names and how we focus on issues that are a concern to them. I just want our families and everyone to know that we see how hard our members of our community are working, how our students have not lost hope, how they're continuing to advocate. I've been so proud of them, so happy to be able to work with our student representative to continue to make sure that the voices of our students are heard. Our parents continuing to learn and calling that hotline to make sure that we're ready to go on Tuesday. Our staff members, our teachers, our food service workers, our bus drivers, everybody pitching in whatever way that they can. And so thank you. I just wanted you to know that we see you. We want to be available. I want to continue to be available. And it truly is an honor to serve this community because we are truly stronger together. And thank you guys so much. And I look forward to working through this and also to having additional discussions on September 15th as we plot out how we're going to go forward. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Keys-Gamarra. Ms. McLaughlin, followed by Ms. Karen.
Great, thank you. I'm happy to be following Mr. Frisch and Ms. Keys-Gamarra, who captured my sentiments, not just appreciation to all of the FCPS employees who are working so hard to prepare for next Tuesday, but for our families who are finding this without question the most challenging opening to a new school year when you're talking about incorporating new technology and access for student learning. And so the only thing I would add beyond their eloquent remarks is that I want to reinforce for our families as well as for our teachers and school building staff that this board, and I know our superintendent, are deeply dedicated to supporting you every single day in this learning effort. And if you come across any challenges or concerns, please speak up. Please don't suffer in silence. Please know that when you alert us, we can help problem solve. And it's going to be so critical that if, for parents especially, if you see your child is struggling socially, emotionally, or even academically to connect in this virtual setting, please, we are just one email, one phone call away. And we want so much to make sure that, unlike the spring, that every single child is engaged in learning every single day, and we want to partner and support that. So my best wishes to all of you as you celebrate these final days of what is officially known as summer vacation. Know that we are going to do everything we can to make this a joy-filled year, but most importantly, we stand here to serve you. So best wishes. I hope everyone stays safe and stays well, and we look forward to continuing to serve you as we give it a new school year.
Thank you. Ms. Marin, followed by Ms. Omesh.
Yes, hello to the community. I am right there with you, fellow parents, in this really unique time. This week, we picked up school supplies from the school. My daughter's changing the background on her laptop that she got from school. The kids met their teachers for the virtual open house, and we had orientation online. It's been quite a whirlwind. And I think I've been walking a lot around my house. So I hear you, it's exciting, but it is a lot. So please know that I really understand what you're going through, and it's not ideal, but wow, it's also pretty exciting. And speaking of exciting, I would like to just reflect on the tremendous work that, the school division continues to put forward, and I'm proud of the school board for doing so as well. Tonight, we approved the child abuse reporting policy, which had been needing an update, and I'm really glad that our governance committee, of which I was part of earlier this year, was able to do that. And we know that abuse reporting is actually down with kids outside of school, and we know that kids are suffering. So having a clear policy will just further help our staff identify how they can, what they need to do if they suspect the child is being abused. Also, I've been active in advocating for General Assembly right now, who's in special session in Richmond, and there are some threats to our funding due to changes in tax revenue structure and how attendance is calculated. So it's been a lot to try and advocate for us downstate to our leaders who are representing us there, and we will need to continue that through the special session and the general session in January. I mentioned the budget chair work, and one particular thing that I'm very interested in as we develop the budget is looking at how the budgetary impacts of changing things like our TJ admissions policy and access to our AAP programs, what the budgetary work is to make those changes happen. Because unless we have funding and protocols and process tied to that, change can't happen. So that's just one aspect I wanted to share. I will say I'm really eager to attend any PTA and community meetings that you have, and I'll be sending a note out to PTA and parent organizations soon. I welcome the chance to listen in on your meetings and hear your concerns and ideas and share updates. And finally, I have to thank our staff from central office to the school. I've just have seen so many ways that staff are working. I've seen it as a school board member, as a parent. And throughout this trial since March, I have only met people who want the best for students. So please keep this in mind. Let's be kind to one another in this unusual time, but know that we are all here trying to do our best for students. And I wish you all a restful weekend and a great start to this school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marin. Ms. Omesh, followed by Ms. Pekarsky.
Thank you. I will, especially right before Labor Day coming up, thank our staff. I'd be remiss not to mention that Labor Day itself has been a struggle to be heard, to be acknowledged, to fight for the rights of workers. And of course, we have thousands of them in our system who've been working so hard, in addition to leadership and everyone else who's been putting this together. So incredibly grateful and looking forward to a successful start of our year. As you guys always know, I have office hours. I encourage folks to sign up if there's anything pressing that you want to speak about or any issue you want to bring to my attention, or if you want to participate in a working group on any number of issues and topics that you may be passionate about. You can also find us on our stream every Monday at 7. We've been trying, I co-host with Nathan, actually, our student rep. We've been really trying to highlight issues that could be of benefit to the community. We just had a detailed session on advanced academics. This previous session, we had one with the health department, and we'll be doing a back to school overview with actually Karen Corbett Sanders coming up with the latest information that we have and allowing you to ask your questions live. So I encourage you guys to tune in. That's easy to find me every week. In addition to that, I do want to start in using my board matters time to give voice to some of our community members in FCPS. We all kind of live our experiences and forge our own paths, and it can be insightful to imagine the experiences in FCPS through the lens of someone else. And so given that we had just recognized Hispanic Heritage Month, I thought to recognize a particular staff member, and so I'll read a quick quote from her. She says, "Working in the FCPS system has been an incredible experience. As the leader of the Spanish Early Literacy Program, I have been able to impact the lives of many families in my community while maintaining my identity as a Latina Muslim. My community has embraced me and accepted me as I am." So I hope to hear many more positive stories like that. And as we look at the first day of school, I remind us that number one, this is historic, and that you're part of a historic class of students. So your kids and grandkids will be able to read this in the history books one day. But really, it's an opportunity for us to reflect as we start the new year, to come together yet again. And I encourage everyone to perhaps set some personal goals as we walk into this year in what kinds of new beginnings we can forge for ourselves and a beginning of hope. So despite the challenges, as my colleagues have touched on, I hope that we can enter this year with some enthusiasm and a desire to better ourselves and better our circumstances. So with that, I yield my time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mesh. Ms. Pekarsky, followed by Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, and then Ms. Tolan.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Today I took my youngest to school, my sixth child. She's starting kindergarten, and she had to pick up her laptop. She had some testing that was to be completed with a staff member who came out in full PPE and a mask, and we were not allowed to go into the office area. And I was reminded just how different this year is, as if we needed any more reminders, but it really just kind of left an impression on me. But my kindergartner was excited. She was happy. And I want that for all our kids, even though this won't be the expected school year. I think it's going to be a great school year. And I want to thank all of the parents for your patience with us. I share your anxieties. They're many. We all want the best for our children. We all want them to have a spectacular school year, even if it's going to be a little different. And I can say hands down that in my 20 years in Fairfax County, in all the different ways that I've been involved, teacher, parent, now school board member, I have never seen this level of hard work and just sheer desire to do anything and everything it takes to ensure that we reach every single child. And I want to thank Dr. Brabrand, your leadership staff, administrators, teachers, everyone for the many hours you have put in. As a parent, I can attest I've been overwhelmed at times in the amount of outreach I've had from our schools. And I want to thank all of you, and parents, please reach out. We are here to help you, to partner with you. And I look to hearing from all of you and hopefully sharing some stories of your first week. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Farsky. Ms. Sizemore-Heiser.
Great, thank you very much. And I appreciate the time to speak. And I just want to echo my colleagues and really thanking our staff, our teachers, our administrators, and echo what Ms. Pekarsky said. I have never seen a group of people work so hard to make sure that in this era of COVID, where things are not how any of us want them to be, that they are going to do everything they can to make this as good as possible for our students and reach every student. I've been incredibly impressed, not just at the work that they're doing, but the attitude by which they're doing it. Every time I speak to a principal, a teacher, an administrator, one of our leadership team, there's just this era of, we got this, we got our kids, we love our kids, we're gonna do whatever it takes for our kids. And I'm really, my hat's off to our staff and our teachers and our team for doing that. And to Dr. Brand for leading that charge. I really appreciate all that you've done, especially considering that everyone has their own families and their own worry and their own trauma from COVID. And they're still doing that, and it's just very impressive. I wanted to talk to our families directly as a parent of a rising senior. I know, and a parent of a special ed kid, I know that this is not the school year that many of us wanted, and there's a lot of anxiety and a lot of worry, and there's kids who are better able to access a virtual environment than others are, and I promise you, we see all of that, we know all of that is there, and we are trying to do our best by everybody. I ask as we start, I'm very excited for school to start on Tuesday. I watch my own kid through the orientation, sit through it, and with a big smile on his face, talk to his new teacher, and he's in course boot camp this week as we speak. I ask everyone in this world to have some patience, some grace, some kindness, and some understanding for everybody, for our parents, for our teachers, for our students. We are all doing our best, and we want to do right by everybody. So we know that an important education is valuable to you as well as for your children to have that sense of belonging. I've been holding town halls. In August, I had a mental health focused town hall, and I appreciate our student representative, Nathan Onibudo, for joining me, as well as many staff members from our counseling staff to focus on mental health. I appreciate Marty Smith and Ms. Baining and Dr. Ivy for joining me last night on Return to School Town Hall. And I'll have another one on September 16th, right after our work session on Return to School. That'll be focused on special education. And I appreciate Mike Bloom and Jane Strong for joining me there to really answer a lot of our special ed families questions. I wanted to say just a really quick word to our class of 2021. I know that you have not stepped foot in your high school since March of your junior year. I know how hard that is. I know many of you are worried about college and about what your last year of high school will look like, and in your connections and your schooling. And I just wanted you to know that we do see you and we care about you, and we're going to make sure that you guys are okay. So I just wanted to give that to the class of 2021, that we got you, we see you. We know you're there. We want to make your senior year special. As for all of our students, we want to make this year as special as possible. And I'm just going to end with one thing. And I've said this before, and I said at my town hall last night, but there's a lot of angst and trauma out there, and it's causing a lot of us, and myself included at times, to really living in this negative atmosphere that we're sort of surrounded ourselves with. And I think moving forward, the best way to learn to live with COVID and the impact it's had on our life is not living in the negative. It's learning to live with the negative. And if we learn to live with the negative and truly live, we might actually find moments of joy and even moments of unexpected growth in this next year. So I hope that you all out there find a way to live with this. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sizemore-Heiser. Ms. Tolan?
Thank you. Yes, welcome back to school. Just a few more days. Not the opening we expected, but we're moving forward nonetheless. I do want to applaud all of our families I've just seen so many creative ways that families are collaborating with each other, setting up amazing workstations for kids in their homes, figuring out ways for kids to collaborate. And I've just been really impressed with your resiliency. And I also really want to thank our families for supporting our school-based staff the way that they have in supporting their teachers, and being excited to work with them and just to make next week and the rest of our school year the best that it possibly can be. Yes, I have seen our staff working day and night to bring us the best in virtual learning. I know my friends in curriculum and instruction have worked endless hours to rewrite curriculum materials for our teachers and run professional development programs all summer long, into next week. And I'm also excited to see that our teachers signed up for those professional development courses in droves. Our teachers, I heard stories of, many of them, decided to take online teaching courses at Mason or, through other organizations, just to try to be able to provide the best service that they can possibly give their students starting next week, Tuesday. And I just want to thank them for doing that. Being so proud of them in their professional development. I was really excited this past week. I attended a couple of virtual orientations, and it was really great to see how excited the students were and how excited the teachers were, and how the teachers were working super hard to build community and excitement, even though we couldn't be in person. I have to say my favorite question that a student asked was, when's the first day of school anyway? Like, when do we start? I thought that was pretty cute. I'm continuing to have conversations with our school staff, our parents, our community organizations. And I was happy to talk with Langley High School students this past week, along with Nathan, just to kind of hear, what they're thinking about and what they're nervous about, with everything that's been happening over the last several months and starting the year virtually. I do want to thank Douglas Tyson for participating in a town hall with myself and Stella Bakarski earlier this week. And, he was a huge help in getting the detailed information out to families, and we'll continue to work on projects like that together as we move forward this year. Don't hesitate to reach out to me. As my other colleagues have said, we definitely want to hear how things are going, what's working, what isn't. And I'll be continuing my office hours and my newsletters throughout the fall. And I, of course, wish only the best for you and your families as we finish up summer and move into the next school year. And just look forward to working together to do the best job for our students possible. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tolan. I will take a very brief turn. I do want to echo much of what my colleagues have shared regarding best wishes for our families, our students, and our staff. As a parent myself, I'm also walking the walk with all of you. But I do want to share that for me, the opening of schools has always been meaningful in my life, because as a teacher, and as a former teacher and as a former school principal, I've always been part of creating the experience for students as they're returning back to school. It's been my New Year's Eve, my New Year's Day. This year is different, but I don't want to sober this moment too much with reminders of what isn't. But I do want to take some time to focus this evening and to honor what is. What is for me right now is really deep gratitude to our superintendent, Dr. Brabrand, to our leadership team, Dr. Ivy, Mr. Smith, Dr. Presidio. I don't want to leave out any names, but I know I am. I think we all do. We all recognize all of the hours all of you have been putting forth since March. It's just been nonstop. I also want to recognize the rest of the central leadership administrators, the regional superintendents, Dr. Zuluaga in my region, and countless others who have been working nonstop. It is very appreciative in terms of all of the efforts that you're putting forth to a smooth reopening of schools, all of the plans, all of the hours, all of the work that you're putting forward.
Also, what I want to focus on is deep appreciation for the school staff, the principals, the teachers, the support staff, for all of the hours that I've gone around the schools in Mason District and seeing all of the distribution of laptops in the hot baking sun for days and days on end, distribution of school supplies, helping parents figure out everything from A to Z. And as Ms. Pekarsky shared, I, as a parent, I'm also feeling the outreach. It's been a ton of emails, text, regular text messages, and phone calls from both the staff at Mason Crest and at Glasgow. So I do want to shout out those two schools because I know very specifically about the efforts that you're putting forward to ensure that our students are ready, that they are connected, and that they are prepared for next week. So thank you for all of that in the hopes of a very successful launch next week. I definitely know that teaching, learning, it's always been interconnected, but more than ever this year, we are relying on some persons more than we have ever in the past. You know, as a parent, as it was shared earlier, who's creating those learning environments in our living room, bedrooms, etc., to make sure that our kids have a space where they can access their instruction. I'm just appreciative of all of the effort from all staff, from our parents and families who are trying very hard to be sure that we have a successful start of the year. Lastly, I do want to give a very, very, very deep thank you to Riley Kozel. She is a student at West Springfield who collected hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books, which she passed along to me, which I was able to share with about 12 of our elementary schools in this area. I'm so appreciative of your work for your Girl Scout Award, which has benefited hundreds of students in our area. So thank you for that. Having said that, I'm the last speaker. I will now ask for one of our school board members to make a motion to go into closed meeting to consult with legal counsel for matters pertaining to actual or probable litigation, where such consultation or briefing and open meeting would adversely affect the negotiating or litigating posture of the public body, and regarding specific legal matters requiring the provision of legal advice by such counsel, specifically personnel matters and student accommodations pursuant to sections 2.2-3711A7 and 8 of the Code of Virginia. Thank you, Mr. Frisch, for making that motion. Do we have a second? Okay, thank you, Ms. Okay, let's start again. Do we have someone making the motion? I have Ms. Sizemore-Heiser. Seconding the motion, Ms. Omesh. All of those in favor, please raise your hands. We have Ms. Sizemore-Heiser, Ms. Omesh, Ms. Marin, Ms. Cohen, Ms. Tolan, Ms. McLaughlin, Ms. Corbett-Sanders, myself, Ms. Pekarsky, Mr. Frisch, Ms. Keys-Gamarra, and Ms. Derenak Koufax. That motion will carry. Thank you all. We will now adjourn to our closed session, and we will come back after to certify close as we do normally. I will see you all in the other room in 2 minutes, 9:50. Thank you.